Hello, and welcome to our series. Do you really think you are financially secure? We frequently confuse ourselves into believing that we are financially secure. Most people, especially high earners, have a nest egg which provides them confidence. However, this may not be sufficient to meet all of life's requirements. We will unpack specific needs and how to satisfy them in this series. I'm RJ Vasudha Deshpande, a financial services professional based in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky region. Yet I serve clients throughout the United States, and with me today I have three experts in this field. Today we are going to talk about financial stability and sustainable growth of our wealth. We all dream of being financially independent. In this episode, we will focus our discussion to help our audience understand how life insurance policies could be a part of a well diversified portfolio. So, let us start with the introductions first. Shishir, let us start with you.
Thank you, Vasudha. Hello, this is Shishir Rege. I am a financial strategist with Anant Wealth Solutions. I specialize in tax diversified retirement planning and financial protection for families and small businesses. I'm physically located in Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area, but work across the United States. Over to you, Bhavin.
Thank you, Shishir. Hello, everyone. My name is Bhavin Shah. I'm a financial professional and I help families by educating them on financial stability in any market condition, tax free retirement income, guaranteed lifetime income, and with their estate planning needs. I'm located in our beautiful Northeast, but have clients and teams spanning all the way to Florida and California. Over to you, Shams.
Thank you, Bhavin. Hello, my name is Shams Pirbai. I've been in the financial industry for about 2 decades now, my focus being auto insurance and life insurance. I'm based in the great state of Texas, living with my wife and 2 kids in San Antonio. I love educating clients and families on how they can protect their today and tomorrow. Back to you, Vasudha.
Thank you all for your introductions. Let us start with you, Shishir. Could you please elaborate on what you exactly mean with financial stability and wealth?
Absolutely, Vasudha. I will start by answering the question with a question to our listeners. My question is: would you buy a house that is without a foundation? I'm sure the answer is big, bold no. And I'm sure the reason everyone says no is because the solid foundation provides the house the stability it needs to withstand many severe storms that come through. Stability is like that foundation on which we are building our financial house. Now, when we start our journey in life, in our starting years in our profession, we have a new job, but we have a lot more responsibilities, such as we get married, have kids, have mortgages, take care of the elderly people in our life. In short, these lot of responsibilities and very little savings cause us to be financially insecure. While we are working towards meeting those requirements through our employment or a business, this point, our financial house or wealth is very vulnerable for any unforeseen event like the death of the primary earner, and that could destroy this wealth. So, financial stability refers to one's ability to weather these financial storms. Now, building the wealth to a point where it can absorb the shocks requires some careful planning, including understanding risks and mitigating those risks. Most times, we see families, especially modest earners, who are in rush to build wealth by investing in speculative instruments or rushing to pay down on their mortgage, for example. Both avenues, in my opinion, are types of aggressive financial plans that leave you unprotected when life happens. So, in our first episode on financial protection, we discussed this topic and how to use life insurance as an instrument to transfer these risks. There is another concept called the velocity of wealth. There is another thing that we don't pay attention to. We look for instant gratification from our investments and sometimes lose that long term view or long term focus. So, we'll talk about that here as well. Back to you, Vasudha.
Thanks, Shishir. And a follow up question. It is a two-part question. In
Mhm.
your opinion, what is the very first step one can take to start their journey towards financial stability? And secondly, you mentioned the velocity of wealth. Can you please clarify that term to our audience?
Absolutely. So, let me answer with the very first step that we need to get started, right? Um, this is getting yourself a consistent positive cash flow. The very first step in your financial building is getting a consistent positive cash flow. I will stress here the word consistent, but let's talk about cash flow first. Okay. Cash flow means adding up all your income and subtracting all your expenses. Okay. For example, let's say you have a gross earnings of before taxes of say 100,000. I highly recommend not using bonuses and other frills you may have in these calculations. We are talking here about defensive planning and not optimistic or what it could be planning. Okay, so let's bear with me here. So if we have a gross earnings of 100K, from these earnings start subtracting all the deductions and contributions, that is your retirement plan, health plan contribution, taxes, and all other expenses thereafter. Okay, there's some of these expenses could be recurring and some of these could be one time that you do two or three once every 2 or 3 years. So for example, taking a vacation or going somewhere nice, those kinds of things where we need to plan for those, right? So after doing all those subtractions, the number you get is what we call a cash flow. If the number is positive, pat yourself on the back. You have a positive cash flow. This is what we need to build the wealth. Now, if the number is negative, you need to work on creating a workable, strict schedule or a budget which can provide you with at least 10% of your gross income in positive cash flow. Okay. Um, there is another concept for emergency funds, but we'll keep that for some later time. Now, let us talk about the velocity of wealth. The positive cash flow that you are generating month after month is what we use to build wealth. Now, we got to look at the long term, like 10, 15, even 30-year horizon for how that wealth should look like, right? If we don't know where we are going, we don't know how to get there. So, from where you are to get to the point, we need to chart a way. And that is what we call the velocity of wealth. Okay. We'll talk more about it. Vasudha, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shishir. Now that it is clear what we mean by financial stability and how one can measure one's financial stability through a positive cash flow. Let us talk about sustainable growth. Bhavin, when people invest in stocks and mutual funds for growth for their portfolio, people usually have a specific percentage in their mind about growth. Could you please elaborate on what is good growth and what do you mean by sustainable growth?
Sure, Vasudha. Define growth, let us first talk about the concept. An investment would typically have a rate of return. As Shishir pointed out, the velocity of wealth is the rate at which your wealth is growing. Now, that growth rate must be positive after taxes and inflation are factored in. So, whether your wealth is making uh, any money, if it does not factor in taxes and inflation, then you're not really growing. Let us take an arbitrary example. Say that you earn 8% on your investments in the stock market and you are in the 30% tax bracket. So effectively, you are earning 5.6% instead of the 8% returns which you are receiving. But now let's factor in inflation at 6%, similar to what we've seen in recent times. Then you're losing money. So in the stock market, and I'm generalizing here for most security instruments, including stocks, bonds, funds, ETFs, we see numbers on paper. So that means that the growth is not realized till those stocks are actually sold. And what if the stock value goes down? Right? What if the market just crashes? You can not only lose growth, but your principal could actually take a big hit. So when that happens, the following years, the growth, right, which happens, it is actually filling in your principal first before it's going to record any real growth after that. So there's a concept called as time value of money that you need to pay attention to. So when you talk about growth, we want to make sure that the year after year, your wealth is growing and at least not declining, right? Taking into account those taxes and inflation. There are instruments in the market which allow you to remove taxation completely from the equation and lock in the gains so you never lose growth. So now, if you have a 7% growth instead of even that 8%, and your stock market investment, and you do not have to deal with taxes, then with the same 6% inflation, you're still in the positive even in those stress conditions, right? Your wealth is actually growing. Nowadays, you see bank advertising, 4-5% interest rate on your money, but the inflation is at 6% and your prime rate is 8%. So although it may appear like you're getting a lot of money from your bank, your money is still losing value. So sustainable growth is what exceeds taxes and inflation and offers the ability to lock in the gains to avoid negative market corrections. Hopefully that will answer the concept of growth and what sustainable growth should look like. Back to you, Vasudha.
Thank you, Bhavin. Thanks for sharing the formula for calculating growth and explaining sustainable growth. I would like to ask Shams to explain what exactly the time value of money is.
Sure, Sudha. So this concept is best explained with an example. Let me go ahead and share it on the screen and talk through it, okay? So in this example, there are two friends, Mary and John. Both are 60 years old. Let us say both are earning 8% compounding annual average rate of return on their investments. Mary started putting in $6,000 a year from the age of 25 and then stopped at the age of 31. So essentially, she invested $6,000 a year for 7 years, making a grand total of $42,000. And then she stopped putting in any more principal. John, on the other hand, also started contributing $6,000 a year, but started 10 years later when he was 34 years old. Now, John continues to contribute $6,000 every year and has a total contribution of $6,000 a year for 27 years, making it a grand total of $162,000. There is almost 4 times what Mary contributed. Now, even with this vast difference in their contributions and with the same assumed average rate of return of 8%, John has just under 5,000 more than what Mary has in account. Quite surprising. This example highlights two key points. Time is an important ingredient in wealth building. We are not talking about timing of investment, but time of one's life when investments are concerned. Now, consistent growth rate without compromising your principal, or the money doubling rule, or also known as the rule of 72, is the underlying rule here. With this rule, given a compound growth rate, you can easily determine how long it would take to double your money. For example, if you are earning 8% compound rate of return on your investment, then what you got to do is divide 72 by 8, which gives you the total of 9. What it actually means is it takes 9 years to double your investment. In wealth building, we need to focus on how many doubles we can get. So starting early with a modest rate of return of about 6 to 8%, you can have many doubles. Back to you, Asudha.
Thanks, Shams. Now that we have covered some basics like sustainable growth and money doubling rule, I'm sure our listeners are excited to know how life insurance policies play a role in wealth building. Most people think that life insurance policies are only for financial protection of survivors. Bhavin, can you please clarify what other benefits are possible with life insurance policies?
Absolutely, Vasudha. So, as most people know, the primary benefit of life insurance is survival protection. Right? Simply put, upon the death of the insured person, the life insurance policy will pay out a death benefit to the named beneficiaries, and it's usually tax free. But there are several other uses of life insurance to support our changing needs. So, here's a few which we'll list down. First one, which comes to mind, is funding for college education. Right? So cash value life insurance policies allow for premiums paid in the early years of the policy, right? That money could be taken out as a loan for college funding or, for that matter, any other requirements. There's also disability, critical, and chronic illness care. So there are policies which would pay the insured person while they're still alive for qualified health events. The third one is terminal illness benefits. So if a person is terminally ill, that means the doctor tells you that you have 12, maybe 24 months to live, and you need monies to pay for your healthcare needs or taking care of other responsibilities, then you can actually use your policy by taking an advance against your death benefit, your death benefit amount. The fourth one is typically tax-free supplemental retirement income. So the cash value a policy builds could be used to take a loan, and a well-structured loan could enable a lifetime of retirement income without ever having to pay the loan back, right? Another one is for folks who have estate taxation impact. Right? They would typically use a policy to pay the estate taxes to protect their estate dissolution before transferring the rest of it to their heirs. Now, let me hand it over to Shishir as he can explain additional but very powerful points for where cash value of life insurance policy is leveraged. Over to you, Shishir.
Thanks, Bhavin. So the other area that the life insurance policies could really help is in small businesses, right? It's called the buy-sell agreement, where suppose you have a business with one or more partners, and one of the partners is primarily running that day-to-day activities. We see this most often with small businesses such as gas stations, grocery stores, and so on. If this active partner were to pass away, what would happen to the business? Especially in cases where the active partner survivors cannot handle those activities of the business without the direction of this active partner. So in the above scenario, if the inactive partners has bought a life insurance policy that equals to the portion of the active partner's share, with the beneficiaries as this passed away partner's survivors, then in case of death of that active partner, their heirs or their survivors get the death benefit and the other partner gets the business. So in fact, they are using the life insurance policy to buy the business partner out. Essentially, the non-active partners would get that business so they can then figure out what to do with that, while the family, the surviving family, also gets a fair value for their part of their business. Another use of a life insurance policy is you could use that as a collateral for personal loans. So in case one needs a collateralized loan, typically collateralized loans have lower interest rate compared to the non-collateralized. So we can temporarily transfer the ownership and beneficiary assignment over to the lender for these policies for access to that money. Once the loans are paid out, the ownership and beneficiary rights are transferred back. In short, the cash value life insurance policy creates an instant estate to help support your needs. Some of these cash value policies can actually work for you as a bank of your own. The concept is called infinity banking. It needs to provide you with the capital based on cash value of the policy. The policy loans in most cases are tax-free, and one can choose to pay or even not to pay the loans back. Of course, there is going to be an effect on the death benefit value. So back to you, Vasudha.
Thank you, Bhavin and Shishir. I especially like the concept of using life insurance as a bank. My next question is to you, Shams. Bhavin used the term cash value life insurance policy. What does that mean? And are there any other types of life insurance policies?
Thank you, Vasudha. That's a great question. The answer, although, is a fairly drawn out, even for high level explanation. So I will ask Bhavin and Shishir to join in, but let me start. There are several types of life insurance policies, and it is not a one size fit all scenario. There are different criteria for selecting proper combination of policies, and hence it is a job of a financial services professional, someone like us. Everyone employs a different method, and that is why we stress in our first episode that one should seek guidance from an independent financial services professional such as us. What we do is we collaborate with multiple carriers to find the best fit solution for your specific needs. Again, given our time constraint of the episode, we can only discuss this at a high level. I would like to start by dividing life insurance policies into three main categories. There's group life, term life, and permanent life. A group life policy is something which is purchased for a group of individuals. For example, many people are familiar with employer sponsored life insurance. That is to say, that an employer would typically provide one or two times an employee's salary as life insurance coverage for the employee. Although the employer has purchased it for all the employees, these type of policies are typically term life insurance within the group life policy. As you would have noticed, this can get complicated fast for our audience. So I'm not going to go into the points here, but suffice to say that these group life insurance policies only cover you for as long as you're part of that institution. There is no cash value with these type of policies. Let me go ahead and pass on to Bhavin to briefly explain term life policies.
Thank you, Shams. So, although term life is considered the simplest of life insurance, there's still several different policies within this one category, such as credit life, increasing or decreasing term life, annually renewable term life, and to name a few. There are a few more. The basic tenet here is the word term, which means for a fixed duration and thus implies a temporary nature of coverage. Right? These policies are valid for a certain period of time, which could be 5, 10, 20, 30, even 35 years, but they end. Term life policies, like group policies, do not offer any cash value or growth potential. These are good starter policies as they're very cost effective for the death benefit that they pay out. So, as we age, the term life policies could get relatively expensive, right? Either due to health issues or just aging in general. So, term life policy usually is a good fit when you have a heavier burden of responsibilities, such as mortgage, children's education, and other responsibilities, but may not be able to afford an equal coverage permanent policy. Right. So, for permanent policy, I would hand it back to Shams.
Thank you, Bhavin. So, a permanent life insurance policy, as the word suggests, is for the life of the insured. That is, it does not have a fixed term like a term policy. Now, most permanent life insurance policies would typically offer a cash value component, but of course, there are some special permanent policies, such as like a final expense policy, that is typically does not have a cash value component. Other than these special permanent life policies, there are two subcategories, namely whole life insurance and universal life insurance. Both categories offer a cash value component. Now, whole life policy are usually endowment policies. That means if you are alive at age 100, these policies will pay out the death benefit and close out the policy. These are set up in a way that the premiums you pay and the growth of the cash value would equate to the total death benefit at age 100. The premium payments and the term to make premium payments are relatively more stringent. In fact, most whole life policies will show you the cash value, but they may not disclose the growth rate. Over to you, Shishir, for universal life insurance policies.
Thank you, Shams. Absolutely. The universal life insurance policies is a different type of policy, a permanent life policy. There are basically two different types inside of universal life that I will talk about. There are many more, but these two are very important. The first one is called variable universal life, which is a VUL for short. And another one is called the fixed indexed universal life insurance, or FIUL for short. Now, both these types of policies provide death benefit coverage up to age 120. So this is first difference compared to the whole life policy. Another difference compared to the whole life policy is that on the whole life policy, your premiums are fixed. On a universal life policy, you can vary those premiums between min and max. Okay. These policies require certain level of expertise in designing the policy to ensure that they do not lapse or become taxable. Okay, so universal life policies have been around for almost 45 plus years, and they offer the greatest potential for the cash value growth because of the ability to vary the premiums. Okay, variable universal life policies, on the other hand, offer the ability for the policy owner to invest this cash value component of their policy into the instruments such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. Now, since the policy owner is responsible for those investments, the performance of the portfolio affects the death benefit. So we got to be little careful with this. Now, typically, these come with the higher risks, right? Because you are dealing with the performance of the cash value, but it also has the higher growth potential. Now, on the other hand, the fixed indexed universal life or FIUL offer either a fixed interest component or an index based interest component. That means your cash value is actually not invested in the market, but offers you the potential for earning interest based on underlying indexes. Okay. It has a huge upside that these policies typically have a zero floor. That means if the market crashes, your money is not subject to that market crash. And you, so I can give an example like in 2002, 2008, or even 2020, while the cash value of VUL directly suffered from the market losses, the cash value of FIUL stayed the same as before the crash. And when the market again picks back up, goes up, the FIUL benefits more because it doesn't have to fill up those losses in the VUL policies, right? So hope that helps understand. I know we talked a lot about different policies. Back to you, Vasudha.
Yeah, thanks. As I understand from this discussion, Shishir, this cash value is available to access either through withdrawals or policy loans for any time you need money, whether it's for college education funding, buying a car or a boat, emergency funds, starting a new business, or even tax free retirement income that you can outlive or so on. With this type of flexibility, anything that one should be cautious about, Shishir?
Definitely. So first of all, we help our clients with all these different types of policies. As Shams put it earlier, right? There is no one shoe fits all. So we want to make sure that you are designing the policies right. A word of caution to add here with universal life policies is the design of the policy and the funding of the policy to help achieve the goals and objectives that you started with. In addition, I'm highly recommending that one should review these policies on a regular basis, preferably annual basis, to ensure that you are on the path to meeting your objectives or if any course correction is desired. Hopefully that helps. Back to you, Vasudha.
Oh, wow. Thank you to all three of you. That was a lot of great information. So, Bhavin, in the beginning, you hinted about instruments that allow removal of taxation completely from the equation and lock in the gains. Were you referring to life insurance with cash value?
You got it, Vasudha. Cash value life insurance, similar to Roth accounts and some municipal bonds, offer tax advantages. There's more to this story here, and we will cover it in our next episode on retirement planning. Back to you, Vasudha.
So, one last question before we end this session. This is for you, Shams. We have a lot of listeners. They come from various walks of life. Several of them may already have some life insurance policies in place. What is that one message from all of us here in this discussion would you say to help our listeners understand their policies or figure out what is best for them?
Sure, Vasudha, thank you. So, if people already have policies in place, What we do is we offer a complimentary second opinion and educate them about their policies. If the policy is no longer meeting the objectives or is in serious trouble, we can definitely take a look at their other options. Now, as Shishir mentioned before, one thing all of us do is an annual review with our clients. See, these are long term investments, right? So, if you do not have that annual touch, you tend to forget what objectives you had when you started this journey. It is a good tune up time to ensure we are all working towards your objective and goals. We all follow a methodical, holistic approach, ensuring we bring value to your wealth and peace of mind. I hope this helps our listeners. And back to you, Vasudha.
So, annual review is the key. Thank you all for another wonderful session. Hope our listeners also enjoyed it, and I'm sure they have questions and comments. We love to hear from our listeners. Please write to us at info@anant-wealth.com, and we would be happy to respond to you as quickly as possible. All our episodes and contact information can also be found on Bharat FM's Facebook and YouTube channel. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode where we will discuss retirement planning and how to be certain in those uncertain times. Until then, thank you all for listening. This is RJ Vasudha signing off.
Thank you.